Okay,
It's
welcome.
a little early for dinner in real estate, yeah?
Yeah, right.
We usually ask what everybody's having for dinner with all the real estate knowledge.
Well, some people might have an early dinner. It is 4:30-ish. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Danny Hara, joined with Kevin Fung and Carrie Scoville and my beautiful wife, Julie, here. Today, we're going to talk about building wealth by investing in real estate. All right, Kev. Okay, I'll keep going. Are you muted, Kev?
Oh, sorry. I wasn't sure if you asked me to prompt you.
No.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. My name is Kevin. I am new to the EHAR team, but I am happy to be here tonight working with Dan and Carrie to present to all of you all of the wonderful things that real estate has for all of us who are looking to invest and grow our family's portfolios possibly or create a legacy. Here's, as you guys can see, here's a bunch of the stuff that we will be going over today. We thankfully have Dan, a very experienced, knowledgeable individual in the real estate world who's going to go into some more details on all of this stuff. But just to kind of gloss over it, the main things that we're going to be covering are up here on the screen. So we're going to be going over things like leverage, how to utilize debt. We're going to be going over assessing how well an asset is performing using things like cap rate and cash flow. We're going to talk about the notion of appreciation, the concept of depreciation and how you can utilize that. And then the last two things is we're going to talk about legacy, how you can take care of future generations of your family, and then what the best way is for you to implement that, i.e. how do we develop a strategy?
Yeah, it'll be a fun day today. All these concepts are really important, and we're going to take a high-level approach to this because it can get very deep, and this could be a 5-hour class, which is only going to be for 60 minutes. All right, let's roll. So what is leverage, right? You know, people talk about leverage, and it's kind of a concept that's really hard to understand, right? So what really leverage is it's an investment strategy where you use somebody else's money, borrowed money, so that you can increase the return or return on your investment. And the biggest way to create leverage in today's world is exactly what we have now, which is incredibly low interest rates. Take a look at this chart. This goes back to 1972, right? 1972 back, but then look whether it spiked up in 81. That's when I graduated high school. Just saying, I'm an old guy. Yeah, in 1981 it was 18%. Isn't that incredible? People paid 18%. It's like buying a house on a credit card, right? That's outrageous. You know what? Here's what's interesting. People still bought homes in 1981. Yeah, they still did because they had to, right? There was a need that was taken. But then when I got into real estate in 05, it was just around the time that we got under 6%. That was incredible. Like if you look historically, when did it ever get below 6%? It never did. And then it went down and went down. Look what it's at now. Oh my gosh, it's at what? Yeah, it's at 2.5 to 2.85.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And, I mean, you can get a VA loan, zero down at under 2.8. It's incredibly cheap. What does this mean and why is this important? That's what we call leverage. So think of it this way. If you wanted to build wealth and buy a stock, right? Let's just say it's Costco stock or United Airlines or Apple, okay? And let's say you wanted to buy $100,000 of that stock. What are they going to ask you? They're going to ask you for $100,000, right? You're going to have to pay that $100,000 to get that $100,000 of stock, right? Real estate's one of the few assets that you can buy and not give them all your money. That's pretty cool, right? I can buy something at 25% down and leverage the rest of my money. Now, why is that important? It's because over time, the assets can appreciate. And there's a chance that you're going to have a cash flow plus every single month if you do this well, right? If you do it well. So that's why leverage is so important. That's why the market, real Akamai people, real smart people who know how to build wealth, they're taking loans out to build wealth. Because when are we ever going to get 2.85 rate? In our lifetime, I don't know how long this is going to last, right? We believe it'll last at least another year maybe, but I could be wrong. At some point, the government's going to have to get it up closer to the 6% range. And then you're going to be laughing all the way to the bank because you're locked in for 30 years at this low rate. So what many of our clients are doing now is finding something that they can build wealth with, lock in that low rate because they know over time assets will appreciate.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you mentioned, Dan, I mean, interest rates, they're extremely powerful tools for people who are looking to invest. It allows them to essentially invest in something that they don't currently have the cash for and utilize that asset to help pay for itself. When I think about investments, I kind of think about it in two ways. One is you have the inputs. How do you get into the investment? And we can see here that kind of the two ways to think about it are what is the purchase price of that asset and what is the interest? But then the other way to think about it is what are you getting out of that asset? And so I think that's kind of the next couple slides that we got going on is how does the output of a real estate investment work?
Right. And one of the first topics we're going to talk about is cash flow. Right? Everybody wants to see those greenbacks, right? All that money. Well, nowadays we don't use greenbacks, right? We use credit cards and PayPals, right? But in my day we did. So what we wanted to do is run you through an analysis, and this is a true story. Client comes to us and says, I want to invest in real estate. I came to one of your classes. You know, I saw this property that I really like, and I really like it because it's in town. It's in Puno. I really like it because it's only $288,000. I can do that, right? I got the money. I got an equity line out of my home. I got $250,000 out of my home through a HELOC, and it's a really low interest rate. So I want to put cash into something. So they look at this asset, $288,000. When we look at here in the cash flow, unfortunately, you see these brackets? These are negatives. Now keep in mind, at 25% down, this would be your negative as it goes all the way through to 65% down. What that means is in this asset, it's going to take a lot longer to get a positive cash flow. Now, look down here. Now this is given you had a mortgage, right? This is when, let's say you only put 25% down, right? Not a good situation to be in, right? But let's just say I took all that equity out of my house. I put $288,000 in. What's my cash on cash return? What that means is if I put in $288,000, what am I getting out of it, right? What am I getting out of it? And it looks like it's a really small number, 1.79%, 1.79%. And so that's what we mean when we put in this amount of cash, what kind of cash flow are we going to get? And it's really based on your income and expenses, right? I think, did I pass a chart? I did not. Oh, the other detailed chart's gone. Okay, we missed the detailed chart. This one is a little different. Now, this one's out in Eva Beach. You think Eva Beach is farther out there. This one costs more. It's $335,000, $345,000. So more expensive, farther away from town. People might think, you know what? That's probably not as good of a deal. But when we look at the income and expense ratio, we look at our cash on cash. Now your cash on cash is providing 4.85%. So Kevin, let me ask you this. If we had $345,000 in the bank today, what's our return on that? What kind of interest rate do we get? Like less than 1%?
What kind of interest rate?
Yeah. Like what is our return on that?
Oh, in a bank. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Oh, we're talking like way less than 1%.
Right?
0.5, 0.0 something really small. I'll put it that way.
I mean, not even 1%, like less than a fraction of a percent.
Correct.
So you imagine $345,000 making a fraction of 1%. You're taking that money out, putting it in an investment, and this is yielding you 4.85%. Simple math says that's a pretty good deal, right? This is how I'm going to build wealth, by using the money that I have that's not generating any money for me, but putting it in an area where it will generate cash flow for me. Right? Interestingly enough, look at this. Let's say I didn't want to take all the money out. I only want to put 25% down. Well, at 25% down, you have a positive cash flow of $2,300 a year. That's significant, right? And as you can see, it goes up the more cash you put down. So this is an example of why we look at cash on cash flow analysis, because it's really, really important. You know, wealthy people who have money, they're looking at what can my money do for me? Really, if you think about it, most people spend all of our lives every day going to work for our money, right? What if we can help you create an opportunity such that the money that you've earned, now it's working for you, right? Your money is actually working for you to bring in a return for you, and you're doing nothing. This is called passive income. And many of our clients are now realizing that passive income is really where you want to be. And ideally, you do this over enough time, you know, and consistently enough. What's going to happen is your passive income will at some point equate to your active income. When that happens, then you have an ability to retire, because now you're making all this same amount of money that you were making, except that you're not working now, right? Your investments are now providing a cash flow for you, right, to enjoy the lifestyle that you choose. So that's one of the main reasons why we look at cash flow. Okay?
Yeah, well, I was just going to bring up an interesting point to me. I remember the first time that you guys showed me these slides. It was interesting how the lower priced asset was performing much worse than the higher priced asset. So one thing I definitely want to note on this is it's all about what is the asset doing, and as you mentioned, where can you put your capital to garner the most return for you. And in this case, the slightly more expensive asset is the one that's yielding almost 5 times more return, or just shy of maybe 3 times more return than the other one. So I just wanted to mention that really quickly, because it was something that was kind of profound to me.
Yeah, and we'll get to the detail underneath this when we go to the cap rate, but the biggest variable in most of these condos and this lower price point is the maintenance fee. And we're going to show you in a few minutes how that impacts your ability to generate cash, right, off your investment. The next thing we look at is capitalization rate. We call that in short terms cap rate, CAP. So what is a cap rate? Well, it's a quick gauge to determine economic viability of any kind of real estate asset. It's a simple mathematical formula, right? You take your annual net operating income divided by your purchase price. Pretty simple, right? You take all of your income, you minus all of your expenses, and you annualize that, times it by 12, gives you an annual net operating income, right? And then you take your purchase price. Let's say you're buying a $1 million single family home, and you can generate $50,000 of annual net operating income. You are now getting a 5% cap rate. Now, keep in mind, in the state of Hawaii, a 5% cap rate is really challenging to get. You're likely going to be in the 3 to 4%, which is better than sitting money in the bank, obviously, right? As we talked about earlier. Though this is something that'll give you a good cap rate, but know that also there's a thing called appreciation, which we'll talk about a little later. But let's give you some examples on how do we calculate the cap rate. So these are the same 2 properties. Remember the one in Punahou Street, right? It's listed for $288,000. But look at this. Their maintenance fee is $845. So while the price seems low, there's a monthly cost that's fairly high. Okay. Now, when you look at the analysis of this, the biggest factor of cost is right here, maintenance fee. So as you can see, your expenses are so high. You have an $1,800 income, and you have a $1,366 negative expenses, which only gives you $433 a month. When you annualize that, you get only $5,000 a year. Now that's still better than sticking money in sugaring. You're going to make more money at this than sticking it in the bank. But is there a better place to put it? Yeah, absolutely. This is the one out in Neva Beach. Remember the price? $345. But look at the maintenance fee here. It's $303. Now that's the winner of all time, right? Because the maintenance fee that low, that's incredible. Now you're looking at a home that's 1,300 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. So when you look at the rental income, you can get $2,300 for it, right? And property taxes, excise, insurance, property management fees, maintenance fees, and repairs, your expenses are only $890. What that means is every month you're putting $1,409 in your pocket every single month. Whereas the $345,000 that you have in the bank is not providing much. Now, when you look at the cap rate, this is what really got our attention, is we got pretty close to 5% cap. So this is a 4.9%. What that means is you bought an asset at $345,000, and at the end of the year, you almost have $17,000 for doing nothing. This is how you can see where your money can work for you, not you work for your money, right? And these are ways that we kind of analyze investment properties to help people make good decisions about which property might be better for you. Because a lot of folks get enamored by how beautiful it is, maybe the location. But when it comes to investment properties, we have to run really good numbers. Right? So if you compare these two, it's pretty simple, right? What decision would this person would have made, right? They're both a little older. One's in town, one's in Neva Beach. One's lower at 288, one's higher at 345. So just at the get-go, you think the one at 288 is going to be a better deal, right? Didn't happen that way. Because look at the cap rate down over there, right? 1.8 versus 4.9. Incredible difference. But when you looked at it from the beginning, from the surface, you would think that Punahou Street, that property would be better than the Neva Beach property. But we've proven, the data says that that's not true. Right? So there are a lot of different spaces that people that you wouldn't think would be a good investment until you look at the map, until you look at the numbers. The other one, right.
Well, I just want to point out again, I mean, to me, it's powerful seeing, especially that last chart. I know that this information was pulled directly from the market. So these are not just made up or kind of fictitious examples. These are real case studies that we pulled from the market. And once again, I mean, for me, I love highlighting the fact that not only is it important to make sure that you find a good purchase price and that investment is bringing in solid revenues every month, but you also have to be very, very conscious of the expenses. And to me, that example is highlighted perfectly with this here. If you're not aware of those HOA fees or other expenses that could be cutting into your rent, it can have a pretty significant impact on your net operating income.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Kev.
Yeah, 100%.
The other element that we have to also consider is appreciation. When we buy an asset today, so you have two choices, plan A and plan B, right? Two different condos or two different houses. And what you want to ask yourself is, over time, which one's going to appreciate more? Right? Which one's, because that's got to be some of the formula of determining which way you want to go. And I love this proverb, you know, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. And that's what real smart people are doing, is they're looking at now. They're looking at the low interest rate. They're looking at leverage. They're looking at how can my money make money for me versus me work for my money. And what's really interesting, you're looking at a 3 to 5% appreciation. So over time, and that's what it's all about. So think of real estate investments as not get-rich-quick scheme as much as it is building wealth over time. Right? And the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to reap the benefits of growth and appreciation. And this chart kind of illustrates what happened in our market here in Hawaii. Look at 1987, when the market was maybe $165,000, $180,000. In a matter of 4 years, it goes up to 380. Outrageous appreciation, right, in the early on periods. After the peak, it took a bit of a slide. From 2000 to 2007, look at this growth. This growth was 15 to 35% every year for 7 years straight. Who would have ever known? Right? Now look at this cycle here, growing all the way up. Now we're in the largest expansion in real estate values we've ever seen in history. And you notice the blue line, single family homes, the red lines, condominiums. What we're going to start to see is you're going to start to see the blue lines dip up a bit for months, and then likely it might dip a bit. We don't know. We don't know when that's going to happen. But we do know that it's a long-term play game. I mean, if the math makes sense today, it'll be much better in the future, because this appreciation is something that is in addition to your cash flow. Right? In addition to your money making money for you in the short term, you've got a long-term benefit as well. The last element is really depreciation, right? Think about that. Now, how does that help you? Now, keep in mind, we are not CPAs. One of our first suggestions is, before you buy or sell, please talk to your CPA so that you understand the tax benefits and liabilities that are attached to you, the taxpayer. There are some things we do know, though. You can depreciate investment properties or anything that personal residence that you had for business use only. Okay, so if you have an ADU in your property and that's only used for business, yeah, that potentially could be used as a depreciation. I know that you can only depreciation on your business portion of that asset. The other thing is it'll lower your overall tax liability. And again, you're going to have to talk to your CPA of what that's going to mean to you. But it'll give you a significant net benefit because your tax liability will be less, therefore your net gain will be greater. And know that when you depreciate, it's only the house, it's not the land. So if you have this highly valued land with an old house on it, know that the house might have depreciated already. Whereas if you've got a new house and most of the values in the home, then you're going to have greater appreciation. And it's divided into 27.5 years. So they take the value of the home and they depreciate it for 27.5 years for the residential property, 39 years for a commercial property. Okay, so that's how the IRS will allow you to depreciate your asset. You can also depreciate any capital improvements that you made that you actually are leasing out. Right? So let's say you buy an investment property, it's got a single family home on it, and then you find out, I'm going to put an ADU on the back, I want to rent something else. You can depreciate that as well. So there's lots of benefits of owning real estate to help you build wealth. Depreciation is one element that a lot of folks don't really consider. But we found by talking to enough CPAs that it's something you're going to want to consider. And you're going to want to talk to your CPA or tax preparer to find out what that impact will be for you and the benefit it'll be for you. Okay. The last section we like to talk about is creating a legacy. Now, we serve a lot of clients that are planning to build wealth, who are building to also transfer their wealth over time. And we have a lot of older clients that have built wealth over time. I mean, talk about real Akamai people who bought these small walk-up apartment buildings for $25,000 and now they're worth $2 million, right? Who would have ever thought of that? Right? People buying multiple homes in the same area. The challenge comes is, what happens when you're gone? Right? What's the plan? Well, most people, what they're going to do is their plan is to keep it in the trust because we're told the trust is where you wanted to keep it and it'll keep you safe. And that's 100% true. That's 100% true. It protects you from probate, right? It protects you from the exposure publicly of all of your assets and the expense of going through probate. So definitely you want to keep it in the trust. But there's one element that we found that the trust does not protect, and that doesn't, it's about your family. Like, how many of you have ever heard of a family who, after mom and dad passed away, the kids fought over real estate? Yeah, most of us have, right? Almost all of us have heard a story of somebody's family that unfortunately got divided, or there was a great amount of contention within the family. So why does that happen if the trust is supposed to keep it safe? Well, because it keeps it safe from probate and your creditors. But your family, though, if there's no plan, there could be a division in the family. Because let me ask you this, how do you divide real estate? You really can't, can you? Right? So many clients will come to us and say, I ask them, so when you're gone, what's your plan? So, oh, my kids will take care of it. So, oh, okay, that sounds like a great plan. Have you talked to them? So, oh, no, I'll just figure it out later when I'm gone. They'll take care of it. I say, so let me ask you this. I say, is your goal when you pass away, is your goal that your family stays close together? I say, oh, absolutely. And do they always think alike? Oh, no, kids are all different. Would you, if you had a chance, would you be in business with all of your kids, meaning all together? And they probably would say, oh, no, definitely not. So yeah, why is that? Well, because they're all different. They have different needs. They have different families. They've got different spouses. They see things differently. They have different scenarios. Right? And that's really what happens. Okay, so let's just take you on a journey. Mom's a widow, and she's got 4 kids. Now, everything's great, right? The kids, Halloween time, before COVID, right? They get dressed up and they go trick-or-treating, and then Thanksgiving, they're cutting the turkey together and the big party before COVID. And then Christmas time, everyone's over at the house, opening all the presents. Life is good, right? And everything is fine. Everything went to mom because dad passed away. It's in mom's trust now. But she has these apartment buildings. And she's thinking, well, when I'm gone, the kids will figure it out. Well, what happens if they don't? Well, what's going to happen is, let's say Grant says, well, I'm the trustee. It says I got to sell it, so we're going to sell it. And Lucy goes, well, it's not a good time. We should wait. And George is over there saying, no, I need the money. I want to go to Vegas, right? And Anne goes, yeah, I'm kind of emotionally attached to it. What happens then? Well, what will happen then is you're going to have a family dispute, because typically the trust doesn't necessarily dictate when the property has to be sold. It just says the successor trustee is to execute on my wishes, which are stated in the trust. But I've only seen one trust so far, and I've seen hundreds of trusts. And I've only seen one that actually had a timetable by which they had to liquidate the property and sell it within 24 months. Almost all of them that we see don't have a timetable. So I ask attorneys, why is it that you don't put a timetable on that? Many of them say, well, I don't want to bind the family to something that they may not want to do, right? It's a safer route to go. Well, it's safer from the legal perspective for the attorney, but is it really safe for the family? Because as we know, in this kind of scenario, over time, there's going to be a dispute. Now, there's 3 clients that we currently have today. The adult children are in their 60s and 70s. And 3 of these clients, they're now not talking to each other outside of attorneys. The only way they can communicate is when their attorney talks to their sibling's attorney, because they can no longer talk to each other. One of them has a restraining order on the brother. It got that bad. And that's fairly common, because again, there's no way to divide real estate, and it's the largest asset mom owned, and everybody wants a piece of the pie, and some of them don't want to sell it. Okay? And if they don't want to sell it and they can't buy it, now what happens? Right? Now you're stuck. Now you're stuck. A good friend of mine, their family was really smart. They bought an apartment building in Waikiki. Apartment building in Waikiki. Now this is in 1950s. By the way, it's still standing, barely, but still standing. Right? And so their generation, mom and dad passed away. He's about my age. So his parents passed away. They were in their 80s and 90s. Almost all of the 9 children passed away. One's left. And then what happens with if the parents pass away, it goes down to their kids, right? Well, their kids now, there's a lot of them. There's 32 of them. There's 32 decision makers on an asset that, what if it needs repaving? What if we have to put on a new roof? Who's going to pay for that? If there's no reserves in it, the guy with the biggest pockets is going to have to do it. In order to keep the income coming, in order to keep the tenants there, the guy's going to have to do it. And then what's going to happen? He's going to go after all of his beneficiaries, cousins, to pay for it. And likely some of them, he's going to have an attorney sue them to get the money. That's messed up. It's really unfortunate that things like this happen. So mom has come to one of our seminars and said, I've heard there's a way that maybe this can be potentially prevented. Is there a way? And so we say, absolutely. So what mom does is she sells this large apartment building and she says to those 4 kids, hey guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you predetermine your inheritance. See, I'm going to sell a $2 million asset and each of you are going to have $500,000 to use at your desire. Now, it's going to be an investment property. That's something that I cannot live in, okay? And it can be in anywhere in the United States. But more importantly, there's a timetable by which you have to execute. And so they hired us to do this. We work with all the kids. We find what they want to buy. We sell the large asset. And by the time we are in escrow on the one that we're selling, we're already writing offers on other properties. They predetermined their own inheritance. See, because what happens is these 4 kids, one lives in Seattle, one lives in Orlando, one lives in Mililani, one lives in Manoa. Who wants the Makiki apartment building? Nobody does. Right? They're not going to live there. There's no real benefit to them other than the money that it can produce. Right? And so mom says, I'm going to sell one large one. I'm going to let you 4 kids predetermine your inheritance. You're going to work with these people because they can shepherd you to make sure this happens. And if you choose not to participate, that's okay, because I'm going to put your portion into what we call a DST, the Delaware Statutory Trust. It's a safety net. It's also a way to execute a 1031 exchange, and you'll get 5% net of all fees. Right? So we have one case like this today that we're actually in process. This is another one we're doing. That was actually the case. 3 kids, one's living at home. He doesn't need a place. So he wants his portion to go in a DST. The other 2, they want homes. We're finding homes for them. Because we just sold I think it was like $1.5 million asset. And now all the kids are going to get their share ahead of time before mom and dad passes away. See, because now they can show appreciation to mom. Right? Now the kids can enjoy the benefit of this legacy that mom's parents actually created, was passed on to mom, right? And now her grandkids and great-grandkids can now enjoy the benefit of this legacy of this family building wealth, right? Because many of these kids, they might have good credit, but the problem is they don't have a down payment, right? And so that's what we're doing now. And then what happens is it stays in mom's name, right? It stays in the trust, but the trust says upon my demise, all of these assets go to the proper people. And when it happens at that incident, upon mom's death, there's a step up in cost basis, which means there's no capital gains tax. You totally eliminate the capital gains tax issue if you follow a plan to create legacy and build generational wealth. Right? And so this model is a model that many families are now embracing because they're concerned about capital gains taxes. It's significant. Now, I don't know how long the 1031 exchange is going to be around. Believe it or not, the last couple presidents, it was on the cutting block. And I'm understanding that it is on the cutting block again. Depending on who's in our president, we'll know shortly. And that could be on the cutting block, which means this plan might eventually go away, right? And that's why a lot of people that we're talking to now understand that maybe it is time to create a legacy. Maybe it is time to create generational wealth. This guy, everybody knows this guy, right? Warren Buffett on a single income, make an investment to create a second source of income. And so building wealth through real estate, why are the wealthy investing in real estate? Because of those 5 things. 1, because of appreciation. We know that that asset over time will gain value, right? We know that's going to happen. Number 2, cash flow. Now my money is generating money for me. Now my money is working for me, not me working for my money. Number 3, you're building equity over time because that asset's going to continue growing. And then you've got tax benefits, right? A depreciation schedule, right? That'll benefit you at the end of the game each year. Finally, it's really about creating a legacy and creating generational wealth. As a father, as a parent, that is a dream, right? To be able one day see that my children would benefit from the work that we put in, and their children will see the benefit from what they do, and so everyone's financially okay, right? They're taken care of. And these are strategies that we put together for folks that want to build wealth, that want to create a legacy with their assets. And what's interesting now is what we're seeing a lot of is I'm the end of the baby boomer. Well, I'm 1 year before the end. My wife's the end of the baby boomers. But at 56 is the bottom of the baby boomers, right? Which goes up to, what is it, 68. My brother's age, right? Our parents are now passing away because they're in their 80s and 90s. Our had homes. Our parents had investment problems. What happens now? It floats down to our generation, the baby boomer generation. And the challenge is, what does this generation do with it? And how do we pass it down? How do we pay it forward? And this is through creating a strategy that's going to be beneficial to you and your family that will outlive you. Right? That's the goal. So there's really a 5-step strategy. It's really simple, right? Number 1 is, first we want to understand your situation. We'll sit down, we'll talk about your assets that you own, income and expenses on them all, the desirability of and then also talk about your family, And one of my questions I always ask all of our adult investors is, at the end of the day, when you're gone, what's going to happen to your assets? And here's what's really interesting. 90% of our clients don't have a plan. They don't have a plan. They just say it's in the trust, the kids will take care of it. That's not a plan, ladies and gentlemen. That's a recipe for family disputes that you don't want to have when you're gone, but you want to create a plan such that your kids now will understand what your plan is, and they can flow through the plan so that at the end of the day when you're gone, they're singing your graces versus fighting each other. Second thing is we want to understand what your challenges are. What could get in the way? What are the problems that you see? What are the challenges that you think you might face? Let's bring that up to the table because we need to talk about those. Right? We need to find solutions to those problems. Helping over 1,000 families buy and sell real estate over the last 15 years, we've found creative ways to solve problems over time. And that's really important to understand what the challenges are and maybe potential solutions. Number 3 is to clarify what your goals are. Many people aren't really sure what their goals are. Until we start talking about it, then they really start talking, well, actually my granddaughter is going to college and she's going to need a place to live. Or my nephew, you know, whatever it might be, there is a goal, but sometimes it's not real clear. So in our conversations, in our strategy sessions, we ask a lot of questions that maybe flesh out and bring clarity to those goals. Then we start planning on, okay, what are the options? What route could you go? And let's put them out on the table. Let's figure out what are the different options to do with your real estate. Once we create those options, you get to select a plan. Then what we do is we put a timetable on it, and we introduce you to all the team that's going to help you execute at a really high level to make sure that you do not fail. Know that the 1031 exchange has very strict guidelines, extremely strict guidelines. One minute off and you're done, right? 11:59 ends the day. Okay, so know that timing matters, and you want to have experienced people there to help you through that journey so that failure doesn't become an option. We have done dozens and dozens and dozens of 1031 exchanges, and we've never failed yet. And it's because we have a strategy that's very sound, and we execute on that strategy so that our clients can pass on generational wealth and minimize or eliminate capital gains taxes. Because no one succeeds alone. You need a team of people who are trained to do this that can help you, that have stories about people who have done it before, people who have lived before you. You want to hear those stories. So, Kev?
Yeah, no, amazing, powerful stuff that you mentioned. I mean, to Dan's point, to me, real estate does two things. It can either help you build your own wealth, or more importantly, it's a great way to pass on generational wealth or create that legacy that you're looking for. So to that point, this is my personal cell phone number. If anyone has any questions about real estate, especially investing, if there's anything that we, the HAR team, can do for you, please feel free to reach out to us. I mean, we're here as your real estate experts, and we want to help you. As Dan mentioned, we've done this for 1,100 families, 1,100 plus families. This is what we know. This is what we do, and we'd love the opportunity to help you with it.
Yeah. So let us know. Just text, call, and you know, it's really no obligation, no cost, no pressure. It's really about helping you create a strategy that might serve your family well. So as we wrap up, this is what we call our family of companies. You know, 15 years ago, we started in real estate and started a real estate team. My wife and I, Julie, started a year after me, and we started growing. We started helping a lot of families. And then what we found is a lot of our families that we're helping were older, and they had to move someplace. So we built a company called Senior Move Managers, right, in Declutter, Hawaii. And the biggest challenge for people moving is their stuff. So we got really good at helping them sort through their things, helping them process what they're going to take, create floor plans for their new space, physically move it and set up, so that the transition was easy versus stressful and difficult. Right? And so we've helped over 1,000 families there as well, go through this whole process of moving from one place to another. When we have investment properties, oftentimes we're called to remove tenants' things after they're gone, to clear it and declutter it. And then we started a company called High Property Management, because we had so many investors that started buying real estate investments, but they said, I don't want to manage it anymore. Can you help me? Absolutely. So about 5 years ago, we started a company called High Property Management. We have over 155 doors that we manage today at a really high level. And so now we're taking care of those assets so that you buy, they can get pre-managed. And here's the cool thing is, before you even pass your inspection period, we can give you an analysis as to what kind of rent you're going to get based on our property managers looking at it. Right? They're the people that actually have to these things, right? So High Property Management provides that solution for our investors. We also built Stage Hawaii. Stage Hawaii is a staging company, because we know that homes that look good will get more eyeballs on it, and oftentimes get more competition and more money for it. And we found that staging was very expensive in the market. So we're able to create an opportunity for our clients to get the same end result, but spend less money. Because we own the company, we can control the costs and we can control the pricing of it. So that's why it's very affordable for our clients. And lastly is Silver Spoons, which is our nonprofit that helps older adults who cannot take care of themselves. The complete solution is all these family of companies. And in addition to that, we actually have a coaching and training company where we train and coach agents around the country. We teach them how to create best practices to build a scalable business, to help many people reach their dreams, to help people change their lives. Looks like we have one more seminar this month. So on, what's that, the 29th, they'll be at 11:30. If you're thinking of buying or you know anybody who's thinking of buying, what I'd suggest you do is have them come and see this. It's an hour about your rights as a buyer. There's 7 ways you can cancel on a contract. And most people don't know what they are. Our mission as an advocate is to make sure you know what they are so that you can execute on that. Should at some point, from the time you get an acceptance through your due diligence, something goes wrong, something changes, something new shows up, we can now execute and get you out of that with little liability to zero liability. And in closing, we have a simple mission. It's really to honor God by serving others with the highest level of competency, care, and compassion with uncompromising integrity. So if you like our street strategy session, call the number there, but also we'll be sending you a feedback and we appreciate getting your feedback. If you found this to be of value, please share it on Facebook, share it with your friends, like it. And invite people over to our next seminars. We do this at least once or twice a week. And our mission is really to pour into our community, give people best practices so they can make good decisions on probably the largest decision we're all going to make, buying and selling real estate. There's really not much of a larger decision to make other than getting married and having kids is real estate. Right? And so we're here for that. We really want to come from contribution and share the values and best practices we've learned over the 15 years. Please visit our website, eharteamhawaii.kw.com. You can click on all of our webinars. If you want to rewatch something, you can do that through Facebook. You can always rewatch our seminars. They're available for you. And then share them again with your family and friends, people that would find this. And I think we're done today, Kev. We beat our record time.
I think that's it. Short and sweet, as they say.
Hey, there was one question in the chat, and if we could kind of maybe expound really quickly on, as you guys were getting a really great deep look into that analysis, the question was based upon those slides, is there a good metric one could use from those real market examples and use as a guiding principle in evaluating properties? Like if there were like 1 or 2 things, what would that be?
So when you're looking at investment properties, we're looking at income and expenses. So thank you, Carrie. We're looking at income and expenses, right? And, it's great to have good income, but we also have to be mindful of our expenses. And usually people think they make their money coming out of the property. We say you make your money going into the property, meaning the price that you buy it at. So if you can buy it at a reasonable price, get a decent income, control your expenses, it's going to generate wealth. Now, in a condo, that's going to be a little challenging because obviously you don't have control over those things, right? And so the due diligence that you're going to really need, excuse me, is a team that's going to do that due diligence and be on your side. They're going to look into things. A couple of things you want to look at if you're buying a condo or a townhouse is the maintenance fee schedule. Right? What is their future projections over the next 20 years of that maintenance fee? Now, rule of thumb is typically 3 to 4, 3 to 5% is okay based on the rate of inflation. Though, if it gets beyond that for any repeated number of years, that's probably something I wouldn't consider. Right? I've seen them at 8 and 10% increases a year. Yeah, that's problematic because at some time your cost will go up so high that you're not going to make money on it. And then when you try to sell it, it's going to be hard to sell. because there's less of a market that wants to buy something with high maintenance fees. So I think the rule of thumb, if you could build the best case scenario, if you can get 50 cents to 80 cents on a square foot per maintenance fee, that's probably a good rule of thumb to go with. In some places, it's $1, $1.25 a square foot, right? So it just depends, because your size typically will lead you to what your rental income could look like. Right? Relate your income and your expenses will give you your net operating income. Then we relate it to your purchase price. Does that help, Gary, you think?
I think that was perfect.
Okay, cool. Do we have any other questions? We got a few minutes. Anybody got any questions? Anybody on Facebook? Got any questions?
Well, I did want to encourage anybody on Facebook that, no matter when and where you're watching this video, give us a call, right? Again, Kevin, what was your number?
My number is 808-295-6365.
Perfect. We love to chat, and we just want to help. And of course, if this has been valuable and you know somebody that this could help as well, please share the video. Follow us on Instagram as well as Facebook. Dan has this great snorkeling video. You've got to be out here. We want you to enjoy the Aloha State and paradise. Check out Dan's snorkeling video online on Facebook and Instagram.
Very cool. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you everybody for coming. We really appreciate that. Feel free to reach out to us. Any question you have regarding real estate, anything related to a home, we'd love to help you answer those questions. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Aloha.
guys.